In many cases, I find that people try to automate messages, but it does not sound natural. I see a great message somewhere, definitely I copy that and put it in my file. Here it's a manual process because we also want to use templates and not automations.
All right, you wonderful, beautiful motherfuckers. We are back. Another exciting adventure. I've got Lana with me, who is part of our mastermind, and she's just a genius in general. And actually, I could go on and on about Lana and Serge and all the cool stuff they're up to. But what I wanted to show you guys more than anything today is she's got like a really cool thing where they're doing more of their closing and their selling process over text and less over the sales calls, even just like some of the pre stuff. And wanted to show you guys like kind of what that looks like from the inside, booking calls over Messenger, actually chat based stuff. And I think it's going to be really cool. Her agency is starting to have some of their biggest month. Obviously, we had a little talk here before we were recording about how stressful that can be. For those of you guys who've never
Yeah.
been through it, it's fucking stressful, but it's good problems to have. And at the same time, what to me, like the coolest thing that I love seeing is like you and Serge are now, your husband was, a year ago or however long ago was, working in a full-time job. And now he's your partner in your business and you guys are
Exactly.
building the systems and process and getting to do cool stuff. So we're going to show you some tech stuff. But Alana, if it's okay with you, maybe we could scroll up and show some of the ideas behind it so people understand like what's actually happening, because I know you got some notes here prepared, which I love that you
Yeah.
did in a Google Doc. That's so Frankie Finn good. I just yeah, no
That
PowerPoint slides, just a Google Doc with some notes. Love it.
that's what I thought. That would be the way. Why would I just, waste my time preparing this pretty stuff? And guys, by the way, like everything I've taken, like the majority of stuff we're talking about today has been taken from Frankie's book. Well, I haven't read the second version. I only read the first one, and based on what we discussed in Mastermind, I've been just religiously every day, every time I came across a great message, I was kind of copy pasting it somewhere and saving it. So this is something that I wanted to show you today. So how we book in sales calls over the messenger. Generally, we still have sales calls. In the future, we plan to get rid of the sales calls or minimize them completely, like to a very, very like short sales call. But at the moment, it's just what works. And I find this is kind of a transition stage. So we still book the call three ways. When we get a lead, it can be a manual call. So we just call the person if they did not respond to us immediately. Or otherwise, we just have a series of messages to text, like text messages or messenger, depending on how they came, or email, to just back and forth with them to ask them questions. Or we also allow people to self-book, like they have a streamlined way to, when they come through the ad, they can book a call, but that does not mean that we are actually going to have a call, because we want to really pre-frame and pre-qualify them before we get on the call. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And I just say I
generally,
like all that, by the way. It's working, and it's sexy to me that you guys are, using the same principles but in multiple media. Because some clients prefer to text, some are old school and want to call, and some want to just book it themselves. And you guys are playing into, just how people like to do it themselves.
yeah, totally. And you know what I've done? So every time you were sending me a message or something, that then we were talking in the mastermind. So what I've done, I created a file which I called like a master file for cold email, text, Zoom responses, templates. And I've actually, like you can see here, avoid commission brass.
Yeah.
Do you recognize that, Frankie?
Yeah, that's definitely a Frankie thing. And
So every time I would come back to you and say like, but they're not responding. And you would just say, these people are very busy, blah, blah, blah. and I would actually document that stuff for myself, but not for myself, just in the future, so that I can use it for my team. If one day I decide that someone else is going to do it, they have now like 86 pages document to go over and to be prepared in one go. And it's so easy to change, like comparing to just video recording. I find it's so easy to tweak things, delete them,
Yeah.
etc.
Can I just
So
add
super
something
easy
that
to
I
manage.
thought was really cool in there because obviously this is like one of the things that works for me and my style and obviously works for you. I'm not saying this is the way for everybody, but I find this process works better when it's lighthearted and fun. And everybody thinks like sales has to be this like super uptight, very formalized, dear sir and sir, what had you interest today? And like all that kind of thing. And like, people are a little shocked that you can close really big deals, sending pictures to people and gifts and having a laugh and, like actually enjoying hanging out with your clients. I think like that's kind of a cool, underrated part in my mind anyway.
Yeah, that was the whole point, because that's what was my eye opening. And I believe you're a brilliant copywriter, like in terms of opening up the conversation with people. And I remember you told me that phrase, that it's more important to open the person than to close them. And I was like, yeah, for sure, that's kind of where we are going to head. Instead of just
Yeah.
trying to make a sale, we're trying to
Jeffrey,
make that conversation.
I just want to add on that because that what you said, if what people don't understand is if you have the ability to open, you never run out of opportunities. If you have the ability to close, yes, when opportunities come your way, you can get paid. But if you know how to open, there's always a closer who will work for you. Like closers are available, but if you don't know how to open, like opportunities will always be finite. And if you really understand the opening skill, you literally, I compare it to dating, and I know it's a little bit of a sleazy example, but like if a guy's goal is to get laid or something like that, and there's a guy who if he meets a girl, they have a date together, they're gonna hook up or whatever, but he only has two dates, he's only got two opportunities. If there's a guy who just knows how to open, he may have thousands of opportunities. He may be able to fumble and bumble and be a terrible closer, but he's probably, if his goal is that, which is how, like, just using the metaphor of sales being like a kind of seduction thing, the guy who has thousands of opportunities is going to do better than the guy who only has two but is really good at managing them once he gets them, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Sorry for the
I
sleaze,
totally
by the
agree
way,
with you.
Lana.
Well, my experience just shows that, I was terrible at sales in general, many, many times, but people still bought it.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Like they still
No,
said
it's
yes, even I
true,
knew
right?
that I did a terrible job at it, because they were ready and prepared, but also because they were open to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So, anyways, this is like what I recommend before trying to automate or templatize anything. I just collected a whole bunch of things that I was trying to use, and I was experimenting with the clients or prospects as they come in. I was just asking one question, then replacing it with the other question, and just seeing how the conversation goes. But also, it was already easy for me because I could just copy paste it, right? So,
Yeah.
copy that message, paste it,
Yeah. And
and it's, yeah, it just simplified the thing. But the process that we've done, so like I showed you, collect messages before automating. So I think it's important because many people
I'm
try to
listening. We
automate.
just got a crying toddler inbound.
Oh, that's okay.
Please continue, Lana. That's just part of the fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, who is there?
This is my Zelda bee.
Zelda V, hi. So you got to collect messages before automating. That's what I believe is important, so that you know how that works. And then you just need to, try to respond. So in many cases, I find that people try to automate messages, but it does not sound natural. In order for that to be sounding natural, I actually never tried to make a pre-written message. I
Right.
responded to someone, and only then I copy that message and use it all over again and again, because
Yeah.
that's how I naturally wanted to say that.
Yeah.
And also, it's
Yeah,
super
people can
important.
tell when you got like an automated message. I mean, I can certainly tell when people are just sending me copy and paste automated messages.
Yeah, and some of them still might sound like that, but at least they are more kind of naturalized in a way that
Yeah.
it sounds more like a human talking. And then another thing that we've implemented is we were like, I just would sit and search on Google for jokes or funny messages or any other messages. I'll show you the example just
Yeah.
in a minute
Yeah.
of how to and which ones.
By the way, can I just add? A lot of times people think in like super professional niches, you can't do this kind of stuff. And you would be amazed that like lawyers will message me and I'll send them a "what's up" gif, and the guy's like "what's up," and they think it's funny, right? Like because they're used to being talked to very overly formally, but underneath it, they're humans, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and opening up that human nature behind the business nature is probably like the whole key of how it's working and why it's working. And one more thing that we were doing, and I'm always doing that, so I'm always on the lookout for great messaging. So if I see a great message somewhere, definitely I copy that and put it in my file. So this is what I was doing over probably past 12 months
Yeah.
before we implemented
Yeah.
the
I
system
can
itself.
confirm we've had a lot of conversations about like, okay, she said this, I do that. Where do we go from here? They're not responding. They are responding, but now they want to know this. We've definitely had a few of those conversations.
Exactly. Yes, and I was collecting all these insights, plus the book, like I showed, like I've taken because a lot of stuff they write in the book, so you can just easily find in there. And well, that's nothing new, but obviously we use pictures or GIFs, like depending on the situation. Like if I find this is the busy owner, like typical example of my
Yeah.
business, representative of my niche prospect, they're just multitasking,
Yeah.
can't cope with everything, don't know what to give away.
Yeah. But there's a brilliance in that,
And
by
then,
the way,
yes, we ought.
because you're showing them that you understand like all the hats they're wearing and what they're juggling and what it's like, right? It's funny, but it's like they feel understood in a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So a picture it says 1,000 words. So before we do it, like if I don't have a great demo, then that's gonna be a picture. So we do use pictures, and we use that in our automations. Our automations are very light, and we use them quite wisely, just so that we do not bog down with messages and people don't feel bugged in general with all these messages. When the new lead comes in, as an example, we only send 3 messages, which is sent like day 1, day 2, day 3. If they have not responded by that, we would assume that they had no interest.
Yep.
But we also use probably the biggest part of what I wanted to share today is we use templates in Go High Level. Apart the workflows, we have templates. And when the new lead comes in, we send, like the system sends them the message. We wait for 5 minutes. If there is no response, we send them the message, manual message on top of that. If there is a response, we start a conversation. And I guess we all know, right, how important it is to just be very quick with the responses if the new lead is in, like they interested.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and
that's
what
why,
you've
like for
done
me,
is
it
like
was super important.
to me is like you've figured out how to open and now you're kind of bringing automation and sophistication and tools to the opening process, but it's still designed to facilitate a real human conversation. You're not trying to like get away from that. You're just trying to start that as soon as humanly possible, right? Like the minute they show interest, don't leave them hanging.
Exactly. And that worked, and that works really well. Like the minute they are interested, we talk to them, and we don't make a phone call unless it's necessary, like unless they are not like really responding to anything, then we try to make a phone call. Our appointment setter is making those. But how the conversation goes when the lead comes in, they receive a message which confirms that they actually filled out the form. In our case, we drive leads from Facebook ads, so depends on the traffic sources. But if it comes from the Facebook ads, they receive a message to confirm that that's actually them filling out the form. And if they say yes, which is a quick and easy answer, then we start the process of templates. So from here, it's a manual process because we also want to use templates and not automations because we want to reflect on their business
Yeah. I call these
and
frameworks. I think frameworks
change
are
wording.
better than like just having everything pre-written. But it's like a Because like, when obviously a lot of you guys know I'm in Travis Sago's mastermind, who's been a big influence on a lot of this stuff. And one of the things he always says, like, if you're approaching, like, say you're out on a date and you touch the girl's leg, if she leans away from you, then you should probably stop doing that. But if she leans in and enjoys it, it's a different response. And you can't do that in automation because not everybody responds to the same thing the same way. And so you have to, like, it's like there's a back and forth process where you have to see how, like, your messages get taken, and how responsive they are. And if you ignore that and just try and plow through it with automation, then it gets lost on people.
Exactly. Plus, like AI is going to take over in the next few years. And the human touch will always be valued way more than any kind of AI because people feel that like there is a person behind talking to them and not just some kind of a robot. Um, but yeah, so do you want me to go through
Yeah, I
through
would
the
love to hear your
process and
thoughts on just kind of like your framework, and how you're
yeah.
kind of like working through this messenger thing. I mean, it's working for you, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the first thing we ask is to asking about their website because it's a normal question, right? Everybody has a website and they don't mind sharing their link.
Yeah.
So we get the link to the website, then we look at the website. If we can't find the how much thing is costing, what's they asking, and we can't understand the size of their business, we ask them additional questions. So there is a lot of like if scenarios in the
Yeah.
script. If they come back to us, then we just ask them about their marketing activities, like what they actually do, um, how many new clients per month they're getting at the moment. So we're just trying to find out. So before we get on the sales call, literally we try to find out what is their problem, because if they don't tell us the problem right there, then we have to push it all the way to sales call and to find out on the sales call, which makes the sales call much more difficult,
Yeah,
right?
and it's
So you,
fucking longer because it's actually, believe it or not, people don't realize this, but it's people are more open in text over sales call, because in a sales call they feel pressure to, like, if they know it's a buying scenario, as we're text, they know if,
yeah,
if they want to, they can just not respond to you, right? So they tend to be more truthful and honest over text.
yeah, that's right. And then we really want to dig out the problem right here and then. Like as soon as they applied, as soon as they filled out the form, we want to dig out the problem. Once we know the problem here, we want to confirm that that's actually what they are looking for to fix it with. And I write here like done for you marketing solution because that's what we offer. And we just confirm, because if some of them will just say, well, that depends on the budget and things like that, they will start talking. And I also don't want to have that person on a sales call unless I know that they have the budget in. So we decided to be very honest and upfront. And you can see here, if scenarios, we can offer done with you solution, which is like a cheaper solution if they don't want to do the full done for you. Or if they said yes, we just want to confirm the budget, or sometimes to even scare them off.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have money and they can't even admit that, like before the call, the worst thing is to talk to people on the call and they will just tell you that by the end, but that's actually way too much. I'm shocked. So I've learned the big thing from you here, Frankie, to just tell them upfront about the investment and stuff.
Yeah.
And if they're fine with the investment, only then like we send them like invite them for the Zoom call if they have not scheduled themselves yet. And after they say yes, we send them a link because we actually want them to self-schedule. I believe that people who can self-schedule are more keen to show up as well, because, and also it's a time zone issue, how
Yeah.
working in a different time zone makes it more difficult to guess their time zone correctly, especially in the US. Some of the time zones are really awkward and split, and you
Yeah.
can easily make a
Yeah,
mistake
just let
here.
Google figure it out, right?
Yeah, so we'll just leave it to here. And there we also ask them to watch the video. I'm yet to record the new Loom 5-minute loom. It's going to be 10-minute loom in my case. But yeah, so we send them the link and then a couple of if scenarios, and that script continues on and on. I don't have a screenshot in here. I don't know why it's not showing. But generally, if we did not book them through the link, then appointment setter tries to book them manually. And if it's not for them, we have a scenario to invite them to a group for now, like to just connect via a group and give them some goodies out and things like that.
Yeah.
So this is a whole process. Yeah.
Do you mind just scrolling up for a second? Because I want to kind of share some thoughts that I think other people, by the way, I hope none of you guys are looking at this and say, I'm going to copy this verbatim and steal this, because this is a framework. Like the key is to make this work with your niche, but not to try and be Lana exactly. But I'll tell you, one of the challenges, like just with the opening that people have, is they ask for too personal, too big of a question, too much information, and there's a momentum that's required. And so we always want the first question to be what I call like an easy question. Like, so for me, like when I'm talking to an agency owner, like my first question is usually like, what does your agency do? We do Facebook ads for dentists. Oh, cool. Right? Like something that's easy to say. Can I check out your website? Like that's an easy to answer thing. And a lot of times I'll get people be like, we got a brand new 500 a way to add 500,000 with a gazillion booked appointments, and it's 15-minute call. Give me a hell yes if you want to book a call. And it's way too big of a request from a stranger, and this is against how relationships really work. It's like when you meet people, it's like, hey, it's nice to meet you. I like your hat, right? Like, oh, cool. I got it at blah, blah, blah. Like they usually start with little things, and that momentum builds into much deeper conversation. So you're doing this very, very smart. This is like inception level thing where you're asking for something that's very harmless. Hey, can I check out your website? But in doing so, it's done strategically, because of course that's going to lead into the marketing conversation. And are you happy with your goals, and where are you trying to go, and is this growing the way you want to do it? So I like that you're leading to like, what are you guys doing to get new people? Again, it's a little bit of a bigger question, but it's still like small enough that we've tried this and we've tried that. And then when you start getting into how many clients per month, that's when it starts getting a little more personal. And if you go for that as question one, which a lot of people do, you won't get an answer for it, right? Because people are just kind of resistant, and they're holding their cards kind of close to their chest. And then when they tell you that, like, are you happy with it? It opens the door for like, a gap to exist. This is the basis of kind of like, what one might call heaven and hell island, where they can see where they're at and where they want to go. And when you're bringing in your solution, what I really like too is, I don't know why people think like having a huge volume of sales calls is awesome, but for some reason, like everybody's trying to sell that right now in our space. And I can just tell you, as you do this, like a large number of sales calls are unqualified, where you might like the person and they may be cool and they may be nice people, but there's zero chance of you guys doing business, because they simply, and I say this lovingly, but they're fucking broke, right? Like they don't have a cent to their name. And like that doesn't make them a bad person, but it makes them a terrible choice of client, because what can you do for somebody who's broke? And so I like that you're intentionally being more upfront about the pricing. Conventional wisdom says only put the price at the end and hide from it. But it's funny you say that, because in your 1.1, the first thing you do is you look for the price on their website, which is what most people do. They want to know how much it is approximately before they get into that. And so, yes, will it create less phone calls? Of course. But you only want to have phone calls with the people who like actually can afford that as an actual solution. So I think there's a real brilliance, is that you're getting into their problems really quickly, and you're building that momentum, and then you're being like very real and upfront about what it's going to cost to fix it. And what happens is, on the other side of that too, is you get less appointments, but they're more qualified, and the calls are shorter because you already know what their problems are before you started. So you don't have to spend like 30 minutes trying to build rapport and getting them to tell you the truth, because you already know. You can like literally, if you do have a sales call in this, instead of being this 90-minute thing, you can just start in like, hey, it sounds like you're trying to get 90 new members and you're not quite there. Like, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah, totally, totally. We really want to know before we jump on a call. We really want to know who they are, and if we already have a shadow of a doubt that they are a suitable client, we will try to really test them with a few more questions before we allow them to get into the call. And some of them will then just say, "Thank you, but thank you," and they will go. But at least we saved both like an hour of our
Yeah.
time instead of talking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And what is going to happen? So this is actually is all coming. So remember how I told in the beginning, that's coming from 86 pages here, but now over the time we squeezed it into like 6 sections, more or less.
Yeah.
So it's only
But it's
six
very
sections.
strategic. I see it. Like you're leading them into the discussion you want to have, but in a very gentle way where you're kind of just opening them up.
Yeah, and every time we get the feedback, we try to improve on our wording and how we say that. So things like that. So it's a thing, something, yeah, that is going to be work in progress for a while. And on top of that, in the future, our plan is, like I said, to shrink the sales call. So every time I get on the sales call, I think strategically as to what else can be taken out of that call? What else wasn't necessary
I
to
love it.
really talk
That's
about?
music to
Yeah.
my ears. And then you
And
say,
I'll,
why even do the sales call? Let's just close it over chat.
yeah,
That
we
is what you
will.
say.
We will in the future for sure, and close them over chat. And some of the tools that we're thinking of using is, for example, to ask them to fill out the form and ask them to watch 10 minutes video.
Yeah.
So that will tell a lot about like whether we want to talk in general and whether that's something
Yeah.
that we offer is for them, because sometimes it's just what we do is not suitable, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
I don't think enough
So
marketing companies think about what you said is that their stuff doesn't work for everybody. They think like if I just get any dentist it'll work, but if there's a dentist who says like, well, I only want to grow my practice with referrals and you sell Facebook ads, like it's not going to work, right? It's just not going to work. So like,
yeah.
part of this is the brilliance is you're disqualifying everybody who's not a fit so that who you do talk with, who's left is the people you, and I think it shows. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you're set to have your best month ever this month, right?
Yeah. Oh, and frankly, it's coming from my bottlenecks. And you know that. Like in the beginning, you were brilliant to solve that first bottleneck because I couldn't grow. I have really limited time in my day to work on my business. And we just, as soon as we knocked that bottleneck down, now I'm just trying to more and more think about how can that be done easier on the way, not by me being involved and
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff.
Love
So,
it.
and the best strategy, and I always remind myself, we discussed that you say, like, the best strategy always is to think about eliminate. Like, can we not be doing that? And that's what I'm asking every
Yeah.
day. Can I not be doing that by?
Yeah.
And then I ask automate, delegate, integrate, all this kind of like further questions of what else can be done. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
So can I show you the message, like the
Let's do it.
example?
I think we've had enough buildup. I think our people are probably going to be pretty excited to see this part right here.
Awesome.
Let's
Yeah,
see closing calls or
I'll be
getting.
glad. So before I dive into the message itself, I already told that guys, you gotta be creative. Like that's why I will not show any of us our messages and just show you one as an example. And I do a lot of research, like I said, before we like put the message in, and not all of the messages are yet there. So every time I come across a response, I think about how else I can use it. But one of the examples, it's actually today. You can see that's my
Nice.
date in Australia, so it's future for you.
See, look
But
at this.
today,
It
so
opens
I
up with some humor. I've drunk all the coffee, right? Like it makes you a real human being.
yes, exactly right. So the reminder of our meeting for tomorrow, I only send one 24 hours before, and one 24 hours before, one message 2 hours before, and one message 15 minutes before the call. But the message 24 hours before sounds like this. Yes, just a reminder of our meeting, virtual meeting. And since the meeting is virtual, I've drank all the coffee. And usually that creates just a laughter, like they
Yeah.
put like a like
Yeah.
or laughter on that message. But today's lead, look at this.
I know, right? I like that you're showing your kind of misses too, right? Because that does happen, right? Like your humor doesn't land with everybody, but nonetheless, like
Ex-
it's an attempt at lightness. Like most sales calls begin in tension of like, okay, who's gonna win this intense negotiation? And it's this is a much more like collaborative process where you're actually trying to help the clients get what they want. And so you're not like on
Exactly,
opposite
that's
ends
what
of
I
the
wanted
table.
to show because the person did not get a joke. Like the 90 people before got that joke or were okay with that wording, nobody told me anything. So today the person's like, is it a joke, like Australian joke or something? And then I explained myself, blah, blah, blah. And then she said, like in the end, like she said, lol, got it, our bad, we don't drink coffee, but I can bring hot chocolate or tea, huh? And I responded, lol, I don't drink coffee either, so hot chocolate it is. So guess what? Like meeting this person tomorrow, we already have like some common ground
Yeah.
to start with.
And
Even though she didn't get the joke, she didn't mind it.
yeah. Yeah, and it's this, by the way, I can tell you from years of doing this. I used to think, like when I dealt with plastic surgeons, that I would always write like very formally and professionally and like overly uptight, which is it's not my style, but I always felt like that's how you had to talk to a doctor.
Yeah.
And so it'd see, please, Doctor Surnina, please find the attached file for this month's blah 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 blah. Thank you kindly, warmest regards. And I would write like this overly uptight shit, and it actually blew my mind that when I started talking this way, I can tell you the exact moment actually that I decided to like just be me. I was doing my second or third ever speech at a big lawyer conference, and it was the night before, and I realized like it was a good speech and it had a lot of value, but I'm like, this isn't me. It's like it's very lawyery, informal, and uptight. And I decided just to put gifs and swear words and like humor in it the night before. And I wasn't like really sure which way it was gonna go because I was like, either this is going to be a hit and these lawyers are going to think this is the funniest shit they've ever seen, or they're going to go like, never ever bring this guy back, he's crass and I would never like hire somebody who like talks like that, and this was offensive and I want a refund. And I was like, but there's no chance of it in between because it's like it's got the word fuck and it's got stupid humor. And to my shock, I didn't get any negative feedback about it at all. They all thought it was hilarious and they were like
Wow.
super appreciative that like we didn't have to take the subject of growing a law firm so seriously, and it could be lighthearted and had humor. Like I had a gif, like for example, to give you guys like what I'm talking about. There was um two birds sitting on a telephone pole at the top, and they were shitting on two birds below them. So two at the top and four, and then there were four birds shitting on eight birds. And the caption said something like, I said, "Is your law firm like this?" And what it said is, when the people at the top look down, all they see are shit because they're looking down on the people they shit on. When the people who look at the bottom look up, all they see are assholes. And that was like one of my things where I said, do you ever find your law firm structures like this? When the people on the top, all they see are shit, and the people at the bottom, all they see are asshole. And everybody laughed, and I was worried like the exact opposite was. And I've learned that like if you can just have these relaxed,
Yeah.
fun-hearted, light-hearted conversations, I'm just open to discover what you want to get done, and I'm here to collaborate with you in that journey, so why not enjoy it? What happens is the clients actually enjoy the sales process, and that's not typically true of most agencies, because most agencies, they're like an arm twisty high pressure. Like actually in our
Yeah.
first agency, the guy who was like my white label partner that was like 90% of my business, I remember he would go to all the plastic surgery conferences and he would meet with these plastic surgeons, and then he would say, okay, Dr. So and so, we're going to give you a report. And he would fly around the country going from conference to conference, and whenever there was a conference there, he would stay an extra 2 days. He would mark down who the two doctors that were or whatever in the area, and he would literally just drive to their law or to their doctor's office, and he would kind of like kick the door in and demand an appointment on the spot and be like, I'm not leaving today till you buy a fucking website. And it was
Yep.
like, even though we closed sales, like the refund rates were high, you could feel the clients didn't trust us, like they didn't enjoy the process. As where this, it's way more like kind of pull than that kind of overly masculine kind of push, and it makes people want to work with you rather than feeling like they were
Exactly.
kind of forced into it.
Yeah, and one of the things I think what is brilliant about your notion of the opening versus closing is that closing, yes, it creates the cash flow, but opening creates the retention.
Yeah.
And if you open up correctly, then you pretty much build the relationship for life
Yeah.
right away. Like if you do it right from the beginning versus like a high pressure sale, I would just say that opening is way more important in terms of making more money.
Yeah.
And at the moment, like I showed, this messenger, like text message stuff works really well. Like you can see people are very responsive. They don't feel like, by the time we get on the meeting, they don't feel strangers anymore. And I
Yeah.
guess that's
Yeah,
that's an
this is like
important
two
part.
old friends meeting and over a cup of tea or hot chocolate or whatever you guys bring. And you guys can
Yeah.
have a laugh about it, right? As where I've had calls, and I'm sure everybody else who's had calls have had these where you can almost feel like, all right, let's hear what you got. Sell me.
Yeah.
You got 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Pitch me. And like I
Exactly.
fucking hate calls like that. I really do. I hated
No.
them then. I hate them
No.
now. And this is more like, hey, dude, good to see you. Okay, well, is I just want to make sure this is a fit for you. Can I ask you a couple of questions about your law practice, yoga studio,
Mm-hmm.
dental office? And let's just make sure we're on the same page here. Like, and it can be way more relaxed and fun.
Totally. When we get on the call, people currently, I love my niche for the way that they are very open and they talk about things. Like they talk, sometimes I feel psychologist or doctor, like, that they come to open up and just say, but I am like all these problems, this, blah, blah, blah. And they really like to talk about what's not
Yeah.
working for them,
And the thing
stuff
is,
like that.
too, this is universally true across every niche. We're entrepreneurs and so are they. There's very few people that understand us. Like they can't tell everyday people like shit, my click-through rates are down and my best assistant just quit on me and now I have to scramble to hire somebody and our ad account got fucking paused and I got a tax bill and my fucking guys like they can't talk about these things with everyday people. So when they show up and somebody actually understands them and is easy to deal with, like it's a blessing for them. You They'll tell you their entire life story in like 5 minutes if you do it in a way where they feel relaxed and comfortable around you, which you've set a relaxed and comfortable frame, which is very different than the all right, convince me now, so and so. And the cool thing about this is like this can carry on through. Like I've got a couple of clients that I'm into like 1990s wrestling, and a few of my lawyers are into that. I got like maybe half dozen guys who are all like wrestling
Mm-hmm.
fans too. And so I literally only send them wrestling stuff. Like I'll send them letters in the mail of like Hulk Hogan with their head photoshopped over top. Just wanted to let you know. And you would think you wouldn't be able to do that stuff with like, here's a lawyer doing 25 million a year, and they have these serious TV commercials that you wouldn't think you'd be able to send them, a Hulk Hogan thing. But it starts exactly like you described with a lighthearted opening where it's okay to just be their goofy selves and those things. And I think it makes the relationship ongoing more fun. And as you mentioned, like there's a very real retention effect that comes out of that. Nobody will tell you that, but when you kick the
Yeah.
door in and sell them a website, like the plastic surgery guy was talking, he
Mm-hmm.
like he just dealt with refunds and disgruntled clients and unhappy shit. Like his refund rates were terrible, and it wasn't actually because he had a shitty service either. It was the frame he set, like the way he opened, just left a bad taste in their mouth and made them like not want to do business with him. As where this is a person I want to keep around in my business as a partner for like 5-10 years. Go talk to Lana. She's our right hand
Yeah.
girl who makes everything happen. So well done.
Yeah. Totally, totally. Thanks, Frankie. One couple more things that I want to add is that
Please.
your 5 minutes loom is a super crucial part here as well, because I hate people who come on a sales call to just say, "But what's your actually program looks like?" and tell me all about that. No, no, no. You gotta know that before the call, so that I don't really have to go over that stuff like go sell me. No, let's talk if it fits you. So that's the conversation kind of we are
Yeah.
having after we qualify them for everything. So this is brilliant stuff here, and a lot of people are enjoying that process more than the traditional way of like
Yeah.
set a call and then no show on the call and then reschedule and then this and that. So Yeah.
I dig it. Yeah, I mean there's something to be said for that. Is like I know everybody thinks like quantity of sales calls is the ultimate metric. If you can't easily measure this, but there's a temperature taking thing that I like to do is where if you look back on the call and you say at the start of that, how close out of 10 was that person to working with me? And what
Hmm.
most people do because they'll jump on the phone with anyone, most of those people are like twos and threes and fours, and they're a long ways away from being closed. And so there's a lot of arm twisty stuff. And a lot of what makes that go from like a three to a seven is actually just qualifying to make sure they're a good fit. Like I've noticed with our most recent stuff, like if I tell lawyers like, hey, listen, you got to have 1,000 visitors a month to your website and at least like 3, 4 good testimonial videos, or like this is just not going to be useful for you, that disqualifies a lot of people. But then, of
Yeah.
course, whoever is left and has traffic and good testimonial videos, like they just immediately jump to, okay, I do have those things, right? So, like, I am qualified. Okay, now you have my attention, right? Like, and so, like,
Yep.
a big part of what you're doing is more like determining fit and less about like I'm gonna try and sell you my thing, right? Like, which is where most people are going. And if you keep
Exactly.
that attitude, you close more calls and keep clients longer. And it's hard to measure
Exactly.
that immediately, but you close more calls and you keep clients longer because you only like to me, it's like what you're doing is making sure you better be at least a 7 out of 10 if we're going to get out on the phone, right? Like I don't expect you to be a full 10 every time. I mean, I'm sure you have questions and concerns and things like that, but like let's not just randomly jump on the phone with everybody who's 2 out of 10 and then try and close them. The
Yeah.
opposite is like, well, let me show you some things, and they'll tell you whether or not you'll be a seven or not, right? Like,
Yeah. Because all we want to get rid of, like for me, it's I was just here to find out. Like, no, 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 you gotta find out before the call. You find out it all, and if you still feel like there is a conversation happening, let's do that.
yeah,
And once we've actually implemented it only recently, but once we've implemented it, I've noticed I don't have like a particular number at the moment, but it's about like the closest about 50%. So it's kind of every second person who gets on the call is
yeah,
about to, take a step in.
yeah. Can I ask you beforehand, before you've implemented kind of like the screening steps, like where your closing rate was before? So now you're at like 1 and 2.
Um, I have to look up. I think it was about like currently it's 50%, but before that it wasn't low. It was about 35%, but I don't have the exact data.
But if you go back like a year ago before you put in like all the
It's
screenings,
probably was about 20%. I was slowly putting steps in for the
yeah,
whole sales process. And like, we've discussed it not once, and you told me like to play chess and stuff like that. So basically, we was like slowly fine tuning and adding a step at a time. I'm just always looking at like what is not working, why this person said no, and then I start thinking what else can be done in this case, like how can we improve our offer has improved dramatically as well. Like
yeah,
at the moment,
yeah,
that plays a big role in closing
yeah.
too.
But even that, just the efficiency, right? Like, would you rather talk to 5 people to make one sale or 2 people to make one sale?
Exactly.
And usually, what happens if you qualify harder, even the people who like don't buy it, there's a better chance of them coming back in 6 months and actually buying it.
That's what I have at the moment. Like the majority, if they didn't buy, they just say, let me touch base just because of this and that. I'll come back to
Yeah,
you. I
yeah,
really like it. I'll come back to you later. Things like that. And then I'm putting them in the group just so that I can,
yeah. Keeping them
keep in
warm.
touch with them over time and share some value so that they don't, like, they just keep in mind. And some of them do come back. Actually, I had a couple of people who
Yeah,
signed up after 12 months of like slow nurturing and,
yeah.
they
Which
came
doesn't
back.
happen on arm twisty 3 out of 10 calls, by the way, because it leaves such a bad taste in their mouth. There's no reason they would ever come back. As where if it's like a hey, usually what happens in if you pre-qualified them well, there can be constraints. Like I just had 2 employees leave, so I can't handle even if you brought me more business today, but touch base with me in 2 months because I'm going to replace them. I'm going to bring people in, and then I will be better suited to be able to like you hear things like that, and you say
Hmm.
cool, and you just keep them in your kind of nurturing system. And 2 months later, it's usually, by the way, 4 months later. Whenever they say two, it's more like four. But
For,
nonetheless,
yeah.
they do come back. They really do come
Yeah.
back.
And some of them I've completely forgotten, but they still came back.
Yeah.
by themselves. So which is way cooler, yeah, than what it was before. Yeah, we will keep experimenting and progressing on that stuff to make it work. And I think I like your idea of not having a salesperson rather than having a salesperson.
Yeah.
So we always try to shift it more towards like no sales call. For now, it is a sales call and I'm enjoying it. I should say that I do like to find out and talk to them just because I've been given a lot of very deep insights on those calls,
Yeah.
which they wouldn't give me otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, people usually ask me like, how can I go straight to a Loom video? And they're surprised to learn I say like, do like 5 sales calls and write down everything they tell you, and then after that, go put that in a video because that's the basis of the video. So you definitely got some good stuff. I'd like to just add, I think it's probably stolen enough of your time here. Really, really appreciate this. I know, how precious it is and how much you got on the go. So
You're
it's
always welcome. No.
I just want to say for those of you guys who have like questions about maybe converting your stuff over text or in some of the details here, happy to answer some questions. So go ahead and, drop your comment or whatever. If you got something for this, make sure to like it or we'll never ever forgive you. But um, otherwise, I hope you guys got some good stuff for this and you can see the potential of the other thing. One thing I just wanted to add that I forgot is like cool thing about this is you can be booking like 2, 3, 4, 5 calls, having 5 simultaneous conversations over text. It's not so easy to do like that over phone because you got to have like one-on-one full attention. But if you have like a framework, you can actually pre-qualify people a lot faster and do it at scale. And as you've mentioned, eventually go phoneless. So thank you so
Now,
much for
now
doing
it
this,
is.
Lana.
Yeah, now it is. Thank you so much, Frankie. Thank you for your time and inviting me to this call. So that was cool to catch up.
Badass. Badass.